Welcome back to Hot Takes and Deep Dives, and today I am joined by writer-comedian Carolyn Bergier. She is the creator of the Diking Out podcast, is currently recapping A League of Their Own, and she somehow got, we're going to talk about this, the writers of each episode to help recap and give behind the scenes about each episode. I made her go see Bros and Fire Island specifically for this moment. Welcome back, Carolyn.
Thanks for having me. I love it when you give me TV homework. Well, movie homework this time.
Movie homework this time. In the past, well, I was the one who inspired you to start watching Real Housewives of New York.
Right. And that seems fitting. Like, who else? Who else would be able to do that?
I still think that you really would like Beverly Hills.
I did actually get tricked into watching one episode of Beverly Hills while I was at Dinah Shore. This is so gay. But my
Wait,
co-host,
last week?
The one that came out when I was at Dinah Shore, where they're just like recapping, but like never talking about what Kathy Hilton actually said or did. And my co-host, Melody Kamali, like made it sound like something big is going to get revealed. We're all going to find out what happened. And it's an entire episode of like everybody reacting to it, but never seeing the footage. And I was livid that I stayed up that late for it, but also would keep watching.
Yes, that is Beverly Hillsing. Yes.
Yeah.
A bit par for the course, specifically in the Lisa Vanderpump era. But we do all know what it is Kathy Hilton said and did, but they don't exactly explicitly say. We'll listen. We're with us. This is about Bros and Fire Island. This is not a Housewives episode. But when we end this, I'll recap.
Break it down. Okay.
So before we get into Bros and Fire Island, I very quickly want to say that you create and host events all over Manhattan and Brooklyn. You performed in Provincetown this summer. You were there for my birthday.
Yes.
You wrote an L Word Christmas carol that I saw performed last December at Stonewall. Are you going to do that again?
You know, I was just thinking today I need to email and get the dates locked down. And awesome. I also need to, because you're the one who tipped me off that Leisha and Kate are going to be in New York in December. So I want to ask them if they'll do it, because I think that they would. And I know them from the L Word watch parties that I used to host at Henrietta Hudson. So I'm hoping for a Christmas miracle, L Word miracle. But at the very least, we will put up that staged reading again. Yeah,
amazing. I think you should do it at Joe's Pub. More to follow. We'll discuss.
Okay.
I truly think you could sell out Joe's Pub doing that. And also, another quick plug for you. You got into the New York Comedy Festival. You do a monthly show at Stonewall, and it got into the New York Comedy Festival. And Judy Gold, our very own Judy Gold, who has been on both of our shows, she's going to be headlining.
Yes. So excited about that. I mean, when we were in Provincetown and we ran into Judy Gold, I said, I want you to do my Stonewall show. We haven't been able to make it happen yet. And she's like, just follow up with my assistant. So when we got into the New York Comedy Festival, I'm like, what a great one to have Judy be a part of. So yeah, we're so excited about that.
We were mid-sentence, like gossiping about her, like saying we were manifesting a run-in, and we all happened to be eating dinner, like us, like my friends, you and your wife. And Judy was literally like maybe 6 feet away from us with a gaggle of friends. And we all were at the club, which is Leah Delaria's restaurant, jazz club.
Right.
Like, it really just doesn't get any gayer.
So gay.
So that's that. All right. Now we can begin. You saw Bros last night.
I did.
I saw it last week. Now, I don't know your feelings on this. Of course, I know your feelings on Fire Island, which we are here, people, for an honest review of both of these. And nobody is really being honest, particularly about Fire Island, because everyone was afraid to say anything negative online. And I want to be very clear that I really liked both of these movies. I am just somebody who really enjoys picking things apart, looking at things, all different angles, like looking at culture that way. I mean, that's why I have a podcast. So, but I want to say up top that I really liked both of these movies. So last night you went to see Bros. I went to the New Yorker Festival where Billy Eichner and Harvey Fierstein were doing a talk right here in Chelsea. This was the first interview Billy has done since the shit went down on Twitter. And like the million think pieces that are being written every hour. So
that's amazing.
I can pepper in some of the comments. All right. Top line. Give me your review.
The best rom-com I've ever seen.
Are you being serious?
Yes.
I thought you were going to come and say you didn't like it.
What is it? Is it my misandry that makes you think that I'm not going to?
Well, it's because you tend to like hate men and and you hated Fire Island. Okay, this is spoiler alert. She hates Fire Island.
I don't hate it. Like, I support the movie. I'm glad they did it, but I'll get into the reasons why I don't like Fire Island. I think Bros is a near perfect movie. I normally don't love rom-coms. Also, I'm as shocked as anyone that I love this movie so much where Billy Eichner is our protagonist. And I liked Billy on the Street. Like, I didn't have a major problem with Billy Eichner. I just could not imagine watching him star in a movie because he is a lot. And I'm like, a whole movie of Billy. But he's not in this movie. He's so good in this. I can't name a better rom-com.
Wow. I loved it as well. I just didn't expect you to be so effusive about it. That's why I'm shocked. I know I'm coming off like I am reacting to your reaction.
My wife also, she's like, I want to see it again. I love that movie so much. I love everything about it. I related so hard to so much of it.
I had no idea how hated Billy Eichner was until this movie came out. But I've never really had deep discussions with people about him. I've been actually following him since the Creation Nation days. I have been to his live show. I've kind of been on the ground floor with Billy Eichner. He's from Forest Hills, which is where I lived in Queens for a decade. And one of the first videos that he did for Creation Nation was the live stage show he did where he would do these man on the street videos that eventually that spun off into Billy on the Street. But he not only would do the man on the street videos, he would do other random videos. And one of them, the one that made me fall in love, was he did a video with Rachel Dratch where he changed all of the lyrics to the Jay-Z Beyonce song New York, what's the Empire State of Mind?
Oh, Alicia Keys, yeah. Jay-Z.
Yes, the Alicia Keys. What did I say?
You said Beyonce, Jay-Z.
Oh my God,
that's
Jesus.
Crazy in Love.
Yeah, that's Crazy in Love. No, he changed all the lyrics to Empire State of Mind to be about growing up as a gay Jew in Forest Hills.
Okay,
and
I love it.
And Rachel Dratch plays Alicia Keys in the video. Or she doesn't play her. She's just literally playing on a little toy piano that's on the street. And I think it was the Forest Hills connection. This is so in the weeds, but ever since then, I subscribed to his YouTube channel, and then all of a sudden he became this huge star. And I'll say one other thing. At the height of COVID, I recognized wearing a mask on the West Side, Elena from Billy on the Street.
Yes.
Literally, she was waiting for the bus and she's wearing a mask, an icon. And I was just like, Elena? And she turned around and it was her. And we talked for a good 5 minutes. And she eventually started ranting about Trump. It's it was exactly her.
Yeah.
It's as if we were in a video for it. I had to go. I at a certain point, I was like, this has been great. But anyway.
So in terms of the fall of Billy Eichner, I wouldn't even say the fall of Billy Eichner, but at one point, I think everybody was on board. So many people love Billy on the Street. And I'm trying to think the timing of it, but my former co-host tweeted at Billy basically calling him a basic street harasser or something like that. And Billy blocked her on Twitter. That was kind of the sentiment. And I don't know if it was around Me Too, where everybody was just so angry at all men and just being well, Billy Eichner is just a street harasser and we're supposed to laugh at him just trying to bamboozle these women on the street all the time. And it's, what he's doing is entertainment. But then how Twitter is. Everybody jumps on and piles on, and then everybody has to get mad and being like, this privileged white man is harassing people on the street. And it's like,
that's insane.
This is like talking to strangers on the street is such a long running comedy bit. And Billy had like a unique angle on doing it and a really fun angle. And just don't make it more than what it is.
One of my favorite Billy on the Street segments, he goes, for $1, name a woman, and everybody freezes. Like they can't, like they literally, and I think at one point somebody like names a man. He's like, what the fuck? That is a man.
I can't be mad at the guy who created Let's Go Lesbians. I mean, he literally, I wish it came from a lesbian, but it didn't, and I'll take it where I can get it. But he came up with like the rallying cry for lesbians, like Let's Go Lesbians.
In Bros, let me get into like critiquing a little bit.
Okay.
And like I said, I would see it again. I would see it again with you guys. A few things of note, however. And then we're going to get into the marketing and all the discourse and all that.
Right.
But as far as the actual film, number one, his group of friends was absolutely ridiculous. He's the only white guy at a table of 10. You're telling me a white gay guy has 10 people at a dinner table and he's the only white person. Like at a certain point, it's like, okay. Like the over diversification, it's ridiculous. It's not realistic. Nobody's friend group looks like that.
I get why you would do that if you're going to have the two leads and like the best friend be Guy Branum, like to kind of balance out the amount of focus that is going to be on the cis white men. Yes, was it unrealistic? Like the whole movie we're operating in a queer fairy tale. Like
I thought Bowen Yang was so funny here. Whereas in Fire Island, I did not think he could act at all. Like I didn't buy really the romantic part of his stuff. Like, but his scene in Bros, to me, this was my favorite scene. He basically plays like an eccentric billionaire who is willing to donate $5 million to this like gay museum if the museum has a quote haunted house of gay trauma.
Which is amazing.
Hilarious. And just
brilliant.
I thought he was so funny. Did you like him in the movie?
I loved him in the movie. Here's the thing. Bros is so funny. I don't think I laughed once during Fire Island. Fire Island took Bowen Yang and just made him like a depressed whiny boy for an entire movie. You have this character actor from SNL with great comedic chops who's wildly silly, and give him a crazy character to play very seriously. He will nail it. He will play that character like it's a real person. And then on Fire Island, it's like, oh, here's like low self-esteem boy who like kind of doesn't want to be here and is just having these kind of conversations with his friend the whole time. Like, I don't care. What's funny about this?
Well, I think the difference is that Bros is written as a straight comedy. If you even like take out the romantic stuff, it's a comedy at its base level. Fire Island is, I wouldn't really call it a comedy. It's more like a sentimental thing, like about the friend group. It's more emotional in that way. Like there are some one-liners that are very, very funny. When the guy asks, what's the Wi-Fi password for the Margaret Cho's house? And Joel Kim Booster says, it's Cherry Jones, but all the E's are threes. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, also, way to give out my password for everything.
Like, that's funny.
I wish I was kidding.
You know what I thought the funniest line in Bros was? When going back to the Bowen character. So at the end, they actually could, because they get the money from him, the $5 million. They're showing the actual like haunted house of gay trauma. Do you remember who says this line? They go, "You made it through the Obama. Obama administration, but what's around the corner?"
Yeah.
I laughed out loud. I forget. Did Bowen say that?
Bowen says that. For me, it was when they're pitching ideas, and I forget Dot's character's name, but she was like, you know how they have the whale in the Museum of History? We replace that, or we do that, but with a lesbian. And it's just this image of Jodie Foster suspended from the ceiling at like larger than life size. That killed me. And then when they're at the Hall Hart Village and they're like home alone, but with Sarah Paulson, I almost fell out of my seat. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's like that kind of stuff is so funny. Fire Island mapped itself onto Pride and Prejudice, which I famously have never watched or read, but because it feels not for me, it feels very straight. Why map your thing onto a straight story? Not to say that Bros, the love story in Bros, I feel like is very universal, but it's also just like so queer though. The relationship dynamics and everything. I don't know. It was like Fire Island was trying too hard. I tried to rewatch Fire Island last night when I got back from Bros, now that I've actually been to Fire Island, because the first time I watched it, I'd never been before. And I turned it off in like 10 or 15 minutes to switch to the British Bake Off, which actually made me laugh more than... And there's stupid British jokes.
I put Fire Island on in the background as we were getting ready to record this, just to so it's like fresh in my mind. And that's when I was like, oh, this is funnier than I thought it was. Like, was remembering...
Like, you said at its base, it's more sentimental and more about the friendships, but then you have Bowen Yang, you have Joel Kim Booster, you have Margaret Cho, Matt Rogers, all these people who we know are funny and who we know can make us laugh. And the writing is just like, they're just so angsty the whole time. It's like the one Harry Potter movie I always skip over because it's like too much angst for me. Like
this, I didn't think the Fire Island script was good. So here's my take on Fire Island. We can bounce back and forth between Bros and Fire Island. My hot take on Fire Island is, like I said, I've seen this movie like fucking 3 times, right? So clearly I really like it.
Yeah.
However, I like it because I love the setting. I want to be there, and it transports me. It's transporting me to a place that I love in real life. And it was beautifully made. The director is Andrew Ahn, who is a great filmmaker. Like, Fire Island has gorgeous cinematography. It's a beautiful looking movie.
Sure.
In further rewatches of Fire Island, I notice how bad Margaret Cho is in the movie. She has one really good scene where she's talking with Joel, I think, about like, you need to leave Bowen alone and like let him live his life. You can't live his life for him. Like, or when she gets serious, she's really good. But the other stuff, she's really overacting. And by the way, did you know that role was actually originally written and cast with an older gay man?
I learned that from your podcast.
Yeah, because Matt Rogers mentioned it. I've been trying all summer to figure out who that older actor was, and I think I've landed. Now, I don't think it was Harvey Fierstein, because he said last night. So the story they told last night was that when Billy first reached out to Harvey, he wrote back, "I hate doing movies. I'll do it if I can do it in one day." And he's only in one scene. He has a cameo. So I don't think it's Harvey Fierstein because of that. I think it's one of these 3. It's either Nathan Lane, Victor Garber, or Leslie Jordan.
You don't think Alan Cumming?
Oh, shit. I think I would have to be somebody older than Alan Cumming.
Okay.
Alan Cumming's a good choice, though, because he's funny.
He's funny, and he's the MC. He's the host. You know, he's like literally the...
Gotta get Alan Cumming on the pod. I've tried to get him.
In talking about Margaret Cho's character, here's another thing about Fire Island, that it starts with this whole thing, and I'm going to bring this back to the L word, where we're going to lose the house and this is the last summer. Like, if you set that up in the beginning, there should damn well be a mission to save the house.
I know.
It's like in Gen Q with the poker thing, and they're setting it up like poker is going to like lead to something. Shane, you're not being careful enough. You're like, there's going to be a bust at the end, whatever. She's going to get the bar taken away. And then it goes nowhere. And you're like, well, what was the point of throwing that in there?
I felt like Fire Island, my main critique of Fire Island was that it had no stakes. Like,
yeah.
So I think that
it felt like they threw that in
to be the stakes that this is our last summer. Meanwhile, just rent another fucking house. I get it. They're supposed to be poor, but like, let's be realistic about it. Fire Island had no stakes. The only stakes of it were, okay, Joel needs to get Bowen laid. If Bowen Yang doesn't hook up with the guy, absolutely nothing will happen. Like, that's not stakes for a movie. But that being said, I just like that it was a slice of life. Like, I like that the way it was structured, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, it just felt, I enjoyed that. I mean, it annoyed me that there were no stakes, like just from like a screenwriting perspective.
Yeah.
But I did think Joel Kim Booster and Conrad Ricamora, there was some heat towards the end as it got going. But Bowen and the floppy hair doctor, I can't. Like, the chemistry was below ground. Aside from the fact that he's adorable, which he is, the two characters did not have a connection at all.
Agree. But the chemistry in Bros, I mean, I was obsessed. I know you think that this is so out of character for me.
That's why I'm shocked, because it's just so out of character for you.
One of the reasons why I say it's my favorite rom-com, because people are like, oh, yeah, like it's all this gay people, but it's not doing anything like crazy with the genre. What rom-com shows sex in that way? I loved the way that they portrayed gay man sex, not that I would know, but in what felt like such a real way, and not toning it down for the audience, which is kind of like his character's whole thing is like, stop toning it down for people. Like, you don't have to. And the fact that it goes there, but in a way that, like, me as a lesbian, I was loving. It was funny, but it was also like kind of hot, and then it was also very sweet and emotional at times, and they were able to have like funny, hot, and emotional sex scenes, gay sex scenes in a rom-com. Where have you seen that before?
So why do you think the movie failed at the box office?
At the box office. So yes, I've read a lot about this. I do think it's a lot of different reasons. It's hard to know sometimes. I mean, one, it's hard right now for movies to do well at the box office. If you're not doing something that feels like you need to see it on the big screen or have a sense of urgency to see it, something like a rom-com, like Happiest Season would have done terrible at the box office if it hadn't gone straight to Hulu, you know? I mean, I read how it got pushed back, that it was supposed to come out at the end of August, which is normally when Judd Apatow's pictures have come out successfully in the past, and it got pushed.
Why?
There was another like action movie, was it like a Mission Impossible movie or something that was supposed to come out, and then that got pushed, and then they saw like an opening of like a week they thought they could own it. But I do think the focus of the marketing, which I've had a lot of conversations and have spoken on podcasts about the marketing of queer movies, and when you lean into how queer it is and how historic it is, like, you lose a lot of people because they think it's not for me. Whereas if you have something like A League of Their Own, which wasn't marketed as a gay show, but is absolutely the gayest thing on TV right now, then people are gonna watch it because they're like, oh, here's a story that, you know, I think I would relate to. If you set it up just like any other Judd Apatow movie, and it's like, oh, here's Judd's next movie, it's this hilarious raunchy rom-com, you're gonna love it.
Judd Apatow's first gay rom-com starring Billy Eichner. End of story. But even so, you go to the movies, right?
I go to the movies, yeah.
So this was the first movie I've seen in the theater since A Star Is Born.
Wow.
In 2018. That's the last time I went to the movies, because I mean, I'm very of the belief there's not been a good movie made since the year 2000. I did an entire episode of the podcast about it. I just think new movies, for the most part, there are some exceptions to the rule, like
Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Okay.
Oh my God, I hated that. I hated it.
We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight.
Like Carol, and frankly, if Fire Island was only available in theaters, I would have seen that. New movies are generally terrible, and I don't want to be held hostage for 2 hours plus feeling like I have to pee. The trailers alone are 20. I was looking at my phone to see how it was 25 minutes worth of trailers. That having been said, I am dying to see the new Cate Blanchett movie Tar.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Are you serious?
I know. I'll look it up. How am I so out of the loop? This is what happens when I
don't
get
it. Bros is on your radar, but this is not.
Bros is on my radar because I know people who were in it, because they cast people. I literally was just hanging out with the Gara Lanning, who the one with
it.
No, with the blonde mullet when Deborah Messing comes in.
I can't. Okay,
and they
got it. So this Cate Blanchett, she plays she plays a conductor. I don't think it's based on a real story, but who the fuck knows? It opened this weekend. Guess the running time of this movie. She's going to win Best Actress for this movie. She plays a lesbian that she's married to a woman in the movie. Guess the fucking running time.
2 hours, 45 minutes?
2 hours and 38 minutes.
Okay.
Absolutely not. No, I can't. No.
All right. Here's the thing for me, though, why I do go to the movies is because now we're also ADD, easily distracted with your phone by you. When I watch something, and if I see someone who I can't place immediately, I'm on my phone on IMDb. It takes me out of the experience. I'm able to enjoy movies so much more, and especially something that's I love good writing. I love good writing in a movie, and I hate to be distracted away from that. So for me to truly absorb it, I was AMC Plus or whatever it was called up until COVID, going to the movies.
What is AMC Plus?
It was kind of like Movie Pass, but just with AMC. I did Movie Pass. I fell for that scam. And I held on to Movie Pass, I think, longer than everybody because
what is Movie Pass?
Okay. Jess, you're going to regret getting me started. It's really funny because I blocked that period of time in my life out somehow, or the trauma of Movie Pass. And then Movie Pass announced that it was coming back. And all these listeners of my podcast who have been listening for years, so many people sent me messages that were uh-oh, Carolyn, Movie Pass. I'm when did I talk about Movie Pass on the podcast? But it drove me to a point of insanity. So what it was you would pay something insane $10 a month for unlimited movies at movie theaters. So what you would do is they give you basically a credit card, and then you would go to it included so many movie theaters, and you would use it like a credit card, but you only ever paid that $10 or $12 a month or whatever it was.
Okay.
And you could see unlimited movies, or you could see 2 movies a week or something. It depended, there were different levels, different
so what
prices
was the scam?
You pay.
This sounds good.
It sounded good, but theaters weren't really sold in on it. And then the theaters were mad for some reason. It became a thing. So then all these theaters started saying, you can't use Movie Pass here. You can't. And then Movie Pass became so popular so fast. Everybody got Movie Pass. And then they had no customer support. It got very glitchy. Then you would have Movie Pass, but then it wouldn't work.
Was it difficult to cancel your account?
It was difficult to cancel your account.
So it's kind of like a gym membership that you can't get out of.
There was no customer service. The movie theater started pulling out, except it ended up being 2 movie theaters in Manhattan that you could use it at. And I'm it's still worth it. If you want to see 2 movies a month, even if you see 2 movies a month, you're saving money with Movie Pass. And you could go to theaters that had more artsy indie movies too. So I still thought it was a great deal. And then they totally went under. It was just a model that wasn't sustainable for them to have it be that cheap and then have to pay all this ticket revenue to these theaters. I don't know. Anyway, that was Movie Pass. So AMC made a version where it was if you pay $20 a month, you can see, I think, 2 AMC movies a week.
Okay.
And like in New York, when ticket prices are $18 a ticket, that's a fucking steal. And it gets you out of your apartment and you can, kind of get out of the craziness of the city for a second and support cinema.
How filled was your theater last night?
It was me, my wife, and 2 other lesbians. Now, granted, I was
Poor
in Middletown,
Billy
New
Eichner.
York. I know. This was Middletown, New York, which is,
Yeah, because you're upstate right now.
Yeah. But so my wife tried to see it, I think opening night or opening weekend. She tried to go that Friday and the theater was sold out and they couldn't get seats on a Friday night. They didn't buy it in advance. So I thought, great, it must be doing well. I'll eventually see. I was kind of on the fence actually about seeing it because of what I mentioned before about Billy Eichner. I think that is another reason. I think Billy Eichner is such a strong personality that even people who kind of like him are like, it's hard to wrap your mind around an entire movie where he's playing this rom-com lead. And that's why I think it's really important that people talk about how good this movie is. Everybody I know who saw it says it's one of the funniest movies they've seen in years. And the writing, like the scene in P-Town where he's on the beach and talking about confidence, like
that was one of the
print
best
that on a
scenes.
poster and put that on my wall. Like, I'm like, oh my God, it was so good. The dance scene in the beginning, is that shot in P-Town at that town hall venue?
No. Mm-mm. They only filmed in P-Town for one day.
Okay, because that looked so much like when Cecilia and I went during Carnival and I told you about the party where we were the only women and it was so many gay men. Okay, the inside looks very similar. I know they weren't supposed to be in P-Town in the movie, but I'm like, oh, did they just use that as a set while they were there anyway?
No.
Okay.
What else did they say last night that was interesting? Oh, apparently something that was cut from the movie. So you know how in P-Town he has to go on the Pride float because like he's trying to raise money. So the way that was supposed to end was there was supposed to be a fight. And which I thought was hilarious because Pride always breaks out in a fight because people get too drunk or whatever.
Right.
And it was about something that I think he had written on Twitter. But they had to cut it because it just didn't work with the montage. But I thought that was hilarious. Like, that would have been very funny.
Yeah.
And Harvey Fierstein said that he, this whole time, thought the marketing was terrible. He's like, I'm sorry. He goes, I don't know about the marketing department over there. But, he like outright called out Universal's marketing department, which I thought was interesting. I mean, Harvey Fierstein has nothing to lose. And Billy said, we just threw everything against the wall. We tried to do it just doing it straight comedy.
Right.
With the marketing, we tried to emphasize the landmark portion of it. But he's like, I don't know. He's like, we did our best. He's like, we just didn't. They've never had to market a movie like this. So that they really didn't know what would appeal to people. And I don't know what's going to motivate. Maybe, I don't know what is going to inspire somebody.
I think people are being assholes on Twitter, which is par for the course and why I'm off Twitter. Oh, we haven't talked about, before Bros came out, there was controversy when Billy Eichner was tweeting about how historic it was and saying it's not some direct to streaming, and people thought that he was taking a dig at Fire Island, and he definitely didn't say it as eloquently as he should have. Clearly, like, he was not trying to attack Fire Island to prop his film up, but that is the reality of streaming, is that these things come out, everybody watches it in the first weekend, and then you forget about it. And that's why it is important to have some stuff at the movies and in theaters. And generally, stuff in theaters, at least it used to be more popular. But then again, I don't know. Like, the biggest rom-com last year was, what was that called? The Lost City. The Channing Tatum.
The Lost City.
Yeah, The Lost City with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock, which I will say was good. I watched it on a plane. I had no idea that movie even existed. I don't remember ever seeing a trailer, any marketing for it, whatever. I watched it on a Delta flight, and it was a lot of fun. It was very silly.
What's hilarious is I saw that also on a plane, but on somebody else's screen, so I couldn't hear anything because I was too lazy. Like, I don't want to watch really a movie on a plane, but I was like watching it like over somebody's shoulder on, well, not mute. It's just I had no headphones.
Yeah.
Didn't inspire me to go see it, however. Something I want to say about Billy on the Street. Julie Klausner was the head writer for Billy on the Street, and Joel Kim Booster and Kate Berlant, that was both of their first writing jobs on a TV show.
Wow. I didn't know that Kate Berlant was involved.
She was a writer.
Or Joel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they're friends. Like Joel and Billy, like they love each other.
Right, right. And
poor Joel had to like leave Burning Man, step out of Burning Man to like respond to Twitter blowing up.
I know. That's so funny. But I don't think Billy said anything that insane about it. If I were Billy Eichner and I knew that I made a movie that is objectively great, and then to see those numbers and be like, God damn it, like, what do I have to do? Like, he's spent his whole life probably advocating for himself, and
he spent 5 years making this movie. It was on hold. It was on hold for 2 years they were supposed to shoot a month before COVID hit. And then it got put on. He's like, I thought the movie was going to die. He's like, yeah, I didn't think we were at once COVID happened. He's like, Universal may have just killed the movie.
Wow. When I heard the discourse, I thought that Billy Eichner really like put his foot in his mouth or stepped in some shit. And then I looked at it. I'm like, this is what people are freaking out over. Get the fuck out. And I like Guy Branum's defense of it and like pointing out just how ridiculous it is. And like so much of it comes from the queer community, which is par for the course. It's kind of meta. Right? Because in the movie, it's all about how like we ruin each other constantly.
This actually brings up an interesting point. The difference between like men and women, or like gay guys and lesbians. Gay guys hate they hate gay shit, typically.
Yeah.
Like, nobody critiqued Fire Island because it starred 2 Asian stars. That's why. And a very, very truly diverse cast. They are shitting on Bros because it stars 2 white gay guys. And my gay guy friend was saying like, oh, don't you know, like, people hate white gay guys. I was like, oh, do they? Like, I didn't know that. He's like, oh yeah, like they hate them because they're just totally privileged.
Lesbians will watch Happiest Season 19 times.
Well, okay,
it's terrible.
Carolyn, look at you. You started in A League of Their Own recap podcast. Show me a gay guy that would go all in on something that is explicitly showing a representation of who they are. Like, gay men wouldn't watch Queer as Folk. The new Queer as Folk got canceled, but they didn't watch the first one either. The original Queer as Folk was a success because straight women watched it.
Yeah.
Not gay people. The L Word was a success because straight women watched it. And lesbians were fucking hardcore about it. Like, they got all women. All women on Earth have watched and loved the L Word. Gay men have a lot of issues with their own representation. Like, I interviewed Peter Page, who plays Emmett from the original Queer as Folk. And I said, why do you think gay men would not watch it? And he said, they can't handle seeing a realistic depiction of the random sex, the drug use, the honesty of what it's depicting about the community, like drug abuse, the non-monogamy, the anonymous sex. Like, they don't want to see it. They can't. And so they'll say it's not realistic. And then he gave an example and he said, I ran into a guy at the gym who said, oh, like I couldn't watch that show, and then offered to like go into the steam room with him.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't think it was realistic. Meanwhile, that whole show is showing Brian Kinney like doing shit like that. I think there's a lot of internalized homophobia when it comes to men.
Oh,
and I don't think it's that way with women. This is reminding, remember when Fire Island, and we were there with a friend, and I asked her, I was like, what did you think of Fire Island, the movie? Mm-hmm. And she's like, I didn't like it. And I said, why? And she went on the whole thing about Margaret's show. I'm like, okay, why else? Why didn't you like? Like, I'm trying to get to the root of like why.
Yeah.
And she said, so this is a friend of ours who basically spends the entire summer in Cherry Grove and is friends with all gay men for the most part. And she said she felt like it was too real.
Yeah.
Like when they throw the bag of drugs down, when they're about to go to the Ice Palace for the underwear party. She said, I remember she literally said, I felt like it was saying the quiet parts out loud.
Yeah. And I felt like the dialogue was kind of like that too, with the conversations between friends. Like when you're, the trick to like screenwriting, it's like you want it to feel real, but you have to write it in a way that's not like anybody would really taught, you know. You have to pick out like the most important parts of a conversation that people are trying to have, write it in a compelling way and put it together, and it will remind you of like that more real moment that you relate to. Like taking it to A League of Their Own, like I think the stuff between Max and her mom is some of like the best parent child scenes, and so important. But it's not more than like 15 lines that they're exchanging. In real life, those conversations might be a lot more drawn out or something like that. If like Joel Kim Booster were to write that scene, it would have been like 3 times as long. It would have been talking in a way that two people talk in a conversation, you know. And that's not, it's like the difference between a podcast and something scripted, right? Like this is how we're talking right now, but nobody would want to see this on screen on a movie. No, but like I think Fire Island went too real. Like, does that make sense? Is that
it
fair?
Does make sense. It was so interesting hearing you talk about the screenwriting thing. It does make sense. I've just never heard it expressed in that way. I think, and quite frankly, the best lines in Fire Island I know were ad-libbed by Matt Rogers and Tomas Matos.
Yeah.
They improvised that entire Marissa Tomei scene, like all of Matt Rogers stuff. 90% of it, he told me that he just improvised it. So like they are talking the way they would talk, because they're just like riffing on the spot. And by the way, that line from Bros, you've made it through the Obama administration, but what's around the corner? Guy Branum wrote that on the spot while they were filming.
Amazing. That was so fun. And then the moment in the end with Amy Schumer as Eleanor Roosevelt, like that callback was so funny. Deborah Messing, I love that.
She was great.
Come on. She was phenomenal. I love that. And the very real thing that was like she's being canceled on Twitter. Because didn't that happen to Deborah Messing?
Yes.
So for her to be like willing to do that, I don't like, there's so much good stuff about this movie. I can't wait to watch it again. In summary, I think it's mostly a marketing. I think it's like 50% marketing, 50% homophobia / internalized homophobia. Like what? Why aren't more straight women going to see Bro? Like that's who, you know, like they have one of them in the movie. The girl's like, oh, I would see that. Gay guys are my jam. Like where's that audience for it? Why weren't you marketing? That's your best bet.
Yep.
Is having straight women come and watch this. But actually, it's probably too real for straight women, because I think straight women see gay guys as these fun accessories and not as the
sexual beings.
Sexual being, but like 3-dimensional, emotional, sexual, like that whole part of it that doesn't involve them. Because this movie isn't about straight women in any way. And I feel like maybe they would watch it and be like, but like, where's me and my bestie? You know, it's not Will and Grace.
This reminds me, I just watched for the first time. There was an HBO show starring Jonathan Groff called Looking.
Yes.
It ran for 3 seasons. Did you watch it?
I didn't, but I've only heard good things about it.
Okay, so I binged it ran for 2 seasons rather, and then a follow-up movie. I watched the entire thing like within the last like 2 weeks. I loved it. There's a line in the show, Murray Bartlett from The White Lotus, plays one of the friends. It's him and his his straight, there's a woman in the show who's a lead, and they're having a fight, and she's like, we have to break up. She's like, this is a codependent relationship. She goes, we're just a fag and his hag. It reminds me of what you said.
Yeah.
All right, let's end it there. Fag and his hag.
Yeah.
It's a good place to end. I can't believe that you haven't heard of Tar. It's out. It came out yesterday.
You know what's funny? I did see two of my lesbian friends on Instagram went to go see it, and I just, because when you say Tar, I'm like, oh, I saw that on a poster, my friend's standing in front of it, and they went to the movies together, and I was like, I have no idea what this movie is. This is insane, but like, whoever, when is Cate Blanchett going to come out? Okay, that's another episode.
I guess we've said it all. Carolyn, tell everybody where they can buy tickets for the Stonewall show, the date of the Stonewall show that you'll be headlining with Judy Gold.
Judy Gold. You can go to my Instagram at TGI Carolyn. I'll have the link there, or at Diking Out. It'll be in the bio there. And that show is November 7th at 7:30 p.m. at the Stonewall Inn.
I can't wait for L Word Christmas Carol to come back. We want Kay and Leisha to play their parts.
Yes. And if you're a fan of A League of Their Own, please listen to the recap pod. I've been having such a fun time doing that. Like Jess said, talking to the writers, the showrunner, the costume director.
You talked to Abby Jacobson's co-showrunner, Will. We were at our Fire Island house. We all had to leave so you could go interview Will Graham.
Yep.
This has been so fun. Everyone, you can follow me, JessXNYC. Follow the show account, Hot Takes Deep Dives. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thanks, Jess.
This is a blast.